Hello, my name is Kristin Constable, and welcome to the Soulful CEO path, where wisdom blends with strategy and success is measured in alignment and impact. And this podcast is all about guiding soul-centered bosses like you through the integration of soul and strategy in business. And in each episode, we explore the journey of creating a deeply fulfilling business that honors your values, nurtures your spirit, and serves the world. And today I am so excited for this conversation because I know no matter where you are in your business journey, what we're going to get into today has the potential to massively upgrade your life. And I know that sounds like over dramatic, but believe me, it is true. And today's guest is a massively talented breathwork facilitator. And I know this because I am in one of her signature programs and I have had the experience of working with her and being guided by her. So Kyla, welcome to the Soulful CEO path. And I know I don't want to put on too much pressure, but that intro really is what I want to say about you and your work. So welcome. And can you share a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm a somatic breathwork facilitator and a embodiment and empowerment leader for women and men, but mostly women, humans. And I help people tap into like that next level. I help people kind of move from, I was just writing this down this morning. I was like, the life that feels fine to a life that is like fabulous. And really ultimately that comes through deepening a relationship with ourselves and uncovering some trapped emotion and self-limitations and all sorts of goodies. We'll get into the juicy bits of it.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I mean around like massively up-leveling your life is like the work that you do is like things can be fine and okay and ticking along. But I think sometimes there's this like not even knowing. You have one breathwork practice that I love. It's like, how good can it get? And like not even knowing how good it can feel and how good it can get. So
Yeah.
I just love that frame for your work. And maybe we can talk a little bit about breath work just fundamentally to start because, breathing is something that we all do. And it's this kind of like blanket statement that covers a lot of different things. Like, I don't know if anyone who's listening has, like, when you think about breath work, think about what your go-to for that is. Like, there's the whole like Wim Hof, super intense, like these big breakthrough experiences that could happen. And then there's also like really gentle shavasana at the end of, say, a yoga practice. So there's this huge spectrum. And so I'd love to get from your like expert lens what breathwork is and how you orient to it as like a modality.
Yeah, okay. So breathwork, I was first introduced to breathwork, not knowing what it was, for sure not knowing what it was. Meanwhile, I was teaching yoga. And so I was like, breathwork, what is that? I thought it was just sort of the same thing that I was doing. And it is, it's a part of it. So when I first discovered breathwork, I was first shown like the big journeys, conscious connected breathwork, big like hour and a half long journeys, really therapeutic, really quite cathartic, really powerful. And that was what really brought me. And that was like my gateway or my doorway in, if you will. And at first, I really thought that I needed those big journeys to have the ahas or to have the profound results. And it was as I spent more time in actually shorter, little like almost bite-sized practices, actually just sitting with myself in any various of varying emotion and just exploring my breath. What I realize now and what I like to share about breath work is it is, you're right, we're all breathing. It is the thing that keeps us alive, and we forget about it. We don't think about it at all, most of us really, until it almost feels like, oh my God, I haven't taken a breath today.
Yeah.
And so it's a really important part of us. When we intentionally sit in a breathwork practice, whether it's 3 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, we're deepening a relationship with ourselves. We're getting to know parts of self that we perhaps haven't gotten to know so well. Just this morning, I was leading a breathwork for repressed anger. And this is a really good example of that. There's certain emotions that, depending on how we were raised, we maybe don't have really good relationships with, right? Anger being one of them, where a lot of people either fly off the handle and have no control, agency over their anger, and some people just don't allow it to come through all. And when we can sit in a practice that, and this particular practice had some various types of exhales that evoked a bit more of a fiery energy. And so it was really inviting those parts of us that we've maybe shamed or, exiled or forgotten. It's inviting those parts of us to actually be here and be okay and be safe and be welcomed. And that simple practice of actually allowing parts of ourselves that we used to shame or that we maybe still a little bit do, inviting those parts to just be a part of us now and for them to be really, really okay and safe. That in and of itself is profound. And if we can do that on a regular basis and just sit with these parts of selves that arise, it might not sound, for someone who's not currently in that practice, you're like, okay, I don't really get it. And that's okay. I really had to experience before I got it. But we as a society are really disconnected ourself. And when I say self, I mean our intuition, our emotions, our desires, what we want, what we don't want, our opinions. Like, we're disconnected as a whole, not everybody. And breath work is a tool that brings us closer and closer and closer each and every time we sit with it to ourself. And that I find really powerful because it's not something outside of us. Yeah. We're not seeking a shaman or a psychic or a drug. We're just actually sitting with ourselves. And it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the beauty of it. And also the interesting part is the simplicity is what makes it beautiful. And also thing that sometimes it gets overlooked because it is so simple. It's not this week-long journey in a jungle or like something like that, but it can have a similar experience. And the thing I want to just touch on that you just said that I think is so powerful, and I'd love to explore a little bit more with you, is the sovereignty piece, the piece where we get to really reclaim, because that's a big word for you in your work, is like reclaim our sovereignty so that we don't have to outsource our power to anything else. So can you share a little bit about just that piece of your work, because I think it's what makes a lot of what you do unique from other people who might facilitate this similar work.
Yeah. So the sovereignty piece and that really reclaiming that sense of self or our power, I'll use my personal stories as to guide this, because it makes the most sense in my mind, of course. So when I first experienced breathwork, I knew my facilitator. Let me just say that. So there was already a level of comfort there. She was my acupuncturist. So she was already part of like my healing team. And we were moving through this practice and she had us make a sound. So to be clear, this was one of the long, big practices. So we were breathing for about an hour and she had us, we're breathing and that was fine. Then she invited us to move and shake our arms, which is just essentially just moving out stagnant energy, which is totally a normal thing we would do. And then she invited us to do some toning, which is just using your voice. And the whole room was making this sound and it was loud and powerful. I couldn't, and I totally shut down. My body clambered up. I got tight and rigid and so uncomfortable, and really then started to spiral in all of the what's wrong with you conversations and why can't you do this? And I just felt really small, weak, and kind of awful. And then I started to consider, wow, why do I feel so uncomfortable making sound? Where's my voice? Do I even have a voice? Which then, spiraled many, many thoughts. One of which is my mom didn't have a voice. My grandma didn't have a voice. I imagine none of the women before them had a voice. And then I started to consider how many people in the world have a voice or don't feel safe to use their voice, I should say. And still nothing would come out. And just as the room was coming back to silence and back into breath, my throat opened and this teeny little squeak came out, and there was this whole body sensation. I mean, I was sobbing, but this whole body knowing that whatever that old story was, whatever that old pattern in my lineage was, stops here. And it felt so big And it was in that moment that the word reclaim came to me. I was like, I'm reclaiming this, not only for me, but for them and for everyone else. Like I am reclaiming my voice. I don't know what that looks like. It's going to be shaky. It's going to tremble. I know that. And it's been from that moment on that my mission is just to help people feel that feeling. And maybe it's not your voice. Maybe it's your body. Maybe it's your pleasure. Maybe it's your connection to anger. Maybe it's your money. It could be everything and anything. But I believe one of the reasons, if not the primary reason, I felt so disconnected without even knowing it from that part of me, from my voice, is I had no relationship with my body. I had no understanding of how to listen to my body, of how to be a partner to my body. I was working in fitness. I was full-time judging my body and trying to fix my body and change my body. And I by no means was ever listening or respecting it. And it took that session, thank goodness, for me to realize that there's so much more here. I do really believe that if we don't have that deepening relationship with self, we don't have a strong connection to our beliefs, our morals, our values, our opinions, our stances, our yeses, our nos, our greatest desires in life. There's a disconnect. And when we don't have that, it's a dangerous place to be. We can, if we can't anchor in what we know to be true and right, for the world will just sideswipe us. Wind will come over, be it political or family or whatever. If you don't know yourself and know who you are and what you stand for in this life, like what do you got? It just feels really messy and kind of scary. And so I don't know another way. This is my experience. Knowing myself through somatic work, predominantly it being breath work, has been what shifted me from, I'll say, like a wallflower. Like I didn't ever speak up, to someone who I know what I know, and I believe what I believe, and I'm not going to get pushed over anymore.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that journey. It's so powerful. And I think, it really highlights that idea of coming home to yourself. If like, so you hear this often, is this idea of like, and I hear it from clients when they're starting to say, share their work more broadly. It's like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know, like, what makes me unique, or like how they say, like, find their voice is something that's like a common thing. But what I hear you saying in that is like, it's there. It's just that sometimes there's things blocking that can go back like generations
Oh,
that
yeah.
are getting in the way. And if we try to solve it just from the mind, or try to solve it just from like willpower, we might be able to like push through, but it doesn't feel like flowy and aligned.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. And I want to get more into like specifically breathwork for business, because I know a lot of the people who are listening to this are business owners, but I think it's important to give context to the conversation around somatics and breathwork first. And maybe if you can share a little bit about, for me, one of the things that I think is super powerful about breathwork and somatic work is that it kind of like shortcuts the journey in some ways. Like what you were just sharing, your story, that was one profound journey that could have taken like years in therapy if you would have gotten there at all. I don't know.
Totally.
And so maybe can you share a little bit about why you believe, or what you know to be true about breathwork and somatics, to help shortcut some of these blocks that we might be experiencing and showing up in our fullness and in our voice and having a voice?
Yeah, I mean, every experience we have, everything that happens to us in our life lives in our subconscious, lives in our body, truly, in our tissues, in our DNA, and it just lives in us, and it goes unseen. And it actually starts before we're even earthside, before we're born. As soon as we're in utero, as soon as our nervous system starts to develop, once our spine starts to grow, which is at about like 7 weeks post.
It's so wild to think about.
It's so wild. This messes with a lot of brains, but it's really cool information. I will share it. So consider, okay, so mom gets pregnant. Fast forward approximately 7 weeks, we grow a little teeny spine, and with that comes our sweet little nervous system. And then for the next approximately, 8 months, 7.5 months, are taking in every bit of information based on what mom's experiencing. Her nervous system is guiding our nervous system. So whatever mom is experiencing, be it pleasurable or not, we start to take that information in. So we start to learn what's good and bad, scary, safe, what's acceptable, not acceptable. We learn that. So if mom is highly anxious, we're going to be highly anxious, quite likely. We don't need to go deep into that. So considering that our body is holding so much information for a very long time. Here we are, like grown adult women. There's so much stuff in our sweet little bodies, and talking about it, talk therapy. I love talk therapy, but you point to your head, you're in your thinking mind, you're thinking about it, you're talking about it, and you can't fully access it. You can't access it the same way. So yeah, you could mindset your way through a little bit. You could really like push through, and you could get somewhere. And I bet you, almost want to guarantee, it will come back. It'll come back. It'll come back because it still lives in you somewhere. And so somatic work, breathwork is being one of, a tool of somatic work. Somatics is of the body. And so be that your emotional body, your physical body, your mental body, your spiritual body, all of the parts that make us a human, it's our soma. And so it's really connecting like the mind and the body. And so, let's say I'm going to continue on the path of anger because I started that already earlier. Rather than just saying, I'm really angry, a language, you and I feel like we talked about this recently about the power of language. By claiming I am so angry, or I am fill in the blank with feeling, we're attaching to that. And the truth is we are not that, but I feel, right? So I feel angry. Great. Most of us stop there. The next step is, how and where do I actually feel that? Like, where do I feel that? And, that takes often some slowing down and really tuning in, but your body holds that feeling, and it holds memories and stories of that feeling. So it might have a 50 different experiences or memories that have made you pissed off. You might be aware of some of them. And so when we are just talking about a feeling, we really can only get so far. But if we go into the feeling of it and give it some space to actually express, that's listening to the body, that's listening to the language that our body is trying to speak to us. And in that, we have so much more power and so much more space for that feeling to actually process through. Because generally what happens with our experiences is let's say we were little and something happened that really upset us. Let's say your older sibling like stole your favorite toy and ripped its head off and threw it in the garbage, and you were so upset. And no one really did much. Maybe they bought you a new toy and just like covered it up and made it better, but no one really like tended to that hurt and that anger. And so that feeling, that emotion, that experience never actually had an opportunity to fully complete. It got lodged in anger. And then let's say someone bought you the toy again to fix it. Anger is sitting there, and then this new toy comes back in. And so then there's kind of happiness and you're supposed to just move on. But that feeling of anger never got to complete, and it just lives there. And then something happens again and there's more, right? We have so many experiences that don't actually get to fully express. And so the body just stays holding it. And when we can go into somatic work and meet these feelings, we can actually go back to memories of when I felt this anger and actually let it process through, so that we don't have to hold it anymore. It doesn't have to live in the body anymore. It comes up and it comes out. Yes. And then we have more capacity. Then we have more space. We generally have more creativity from that place. If you're a team leader, imagine if you could clear out all of these bits of old anger, how much space and compassion you would have for your team. What a better leader you could be with more space and more capacity with that. So somatic work, I think, is a must in business, but in life, but in business, we come up against story after story and old limiting beliefs. Oh, I don't know if I could do that, or I can't charge that, or who am I to start this? And oh, I don't know. No one else in my family has ever been a successful entrepreneur. Why me? I don't think I could. Whether you're saying that out loud or not, I imagine at least one of those, at least at some point in your entrepreneurial journey, that thought is like sat back there. Who am I? Ooh, imposter syndrome. And yeah, we can push through and, grind and put the head down and just forge forward. But if we don't give those stories or those feelings some space to tell us, like, really, okay, you don't feel good enough. Let's open it up.
Yeah.
Why not? Where did that come from? How long has it been here? Where did you first learn that? And invite those feelings to come up. Will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Yes, it will. You're going to go into some emotion. You're probably going to feel the feeling deeper and deeper while it moves through. And then once you're able to move it through, it's no longer taking up that space. And you in that moment will probably feel like you've reclaimed some of your power, some of yourself. And whatever the next step was, whatever, the business decision was, there will be clarity because that heavy old story isn't taking up the space anymore. So mindset's important, of course, but if we're not accessing the body and actually inviting these parts of ourselves fully experience their emotion and express and clear out, we won't get, I just really don't think we'll get as far. I really don't think we'll get as far. I think it'll be harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And you've shared so much good stuff in there. And I think a couple of things I just want to pull out is, one, this doesn't need to be about these big traumatic events that we're going back and we're like working with. It can be, but it can be something like, getting your toy stolen when you're young. Because and this is one of the things I think is super powerful about somatic work, is we actually don't need to know the story. We don't need to know that it was when we got our toy stolen or like we were disappointed by this thing. We just need to know the feeling. Well, we experience the feeling and we give it space to process. So it actually frees us up from having to do all that work around like trying to figure out why and piece all these things together. We just get to work from the sensation and the feeling, which is like, to me, just super efficient, which I really like. I'm like, that's
well,
awesome.
it can be so fast. Like it can really happen so quickly when we just actually give space for that feeling. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so let's dig a little bit deeper into breathwork for business owners, because you started going down that path. And I think it's super important and interesting, especially for people who are listening. And so you might be hearing our conversation so far. And we've kind of talked about it more in the, the human experience and just being human. And I want to make this really tangible for business owners to be like, what are the benefits for me to include breathwork as a regular practice in my world, just like, say, exercise or eating well? Because, as business owners, both you and I know, if like we're not thriving, we can't do our best work. Like, we are the vehicle for our work, operating at the level we need to operate at, our work is going to suffer. And so the reason I wanted to bring you on and have this conversation is like, my belief and argument is like breathwork should be an integrated part into any business owner's like well-being plan, because it's so efficient and it's so helpful. So maybe if you could give us some like real examples of like maybe clients you've worked with or your own experience as a business owner around how you've used breathwork to support you in your business.
Yeah. So I spoke a little bit about, like limiting beliefs or these old stories that sit in our mind or wherever they sit. And are most of your listeners women?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a woman in business, as a woman, we are generally, if we want to like really generalize, the feminine is more heart-centered and nurturing and, loving and all of those beautiful things. And the masculine is really, driven and forward focused and penetrative and stable and structured and strategy. And we're a little bit more like going with the flow and trusting that it's all going to be perfect. And when we land in entrepreneurship, or maybe not entrepreneurship, maybe you're leading a team, maybe you're corporate, very quickly we can shift in. And we kind of have to. We have to shift into that masculine direction a little bit of like, okay, we got to get shit done. Sorry, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. and that's fine. And there needs to be a mindfulness of Am I bringing in both, or am I really leaning into one more than the other? And so when we can get into a space where we're really like trying to push forward to the next level, maybe we're creating something new, or we're trying to hit a new target, or whatever that next thing might be, we're very much in our head. We're thinking, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? It can start to feel a bit sticky. We might even feel like we're like smacking our head against the wall. Like, why is nothing working? Why is nothing working? And I trust that that's because we've moved too far away from like the foundation of our business, which I trust came from a heart-centered space. It came from, I love this. This feels good. And I want to serve. I want to share. I want everyone to know this. And if we are running our business solely from the thinking, the logical, the head, the structure, the doing, the forward, push, 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 and we're not taking time to come back in to the softness, to the intuition, to the connection, to the wisdom, to the love that we have for this in the very beginning, again, it's going to feel really hard. And if we can just implement a practice where we are dedicating time to ourselves because we know we're worthy of it, it's the first thing. And then coming into a practice where we're practicing trust of self, like trusting yourself, being with your body, being with whatever story, whatever emotions there. Another part of the feminine is it's wild. It's volatile. We're smiling and laughing, and then we're crying. Like, we have it all, and that's really incredible. And the work that we have to do these, in this current day and age, is being with all of it and knowing that all of it is good. All of it is good and welcome. And so these, a daily practice invites us into getting to know the body, understanding that, okay, I can have this big feeling and it's actually okay. And when that big feeling is moved through, everything feels so clear. There's so much clarity. And that's the big piece that the women that I do work with that are entrepreneurs, one of the most common words that comes out of sessions is the clarity. Like, I know the next step. Okay, everything actually feels so much clearer. It's not actually as overwhelming as I thought. And the story that comes to my mind, I was thinking I could tell more stories of myself, but that gets boring sometimes. I have this really sweet client, and she started in the essentials with us at the very, very beginning. She's been with us for 2 years, and I've watched, she had a home business that, we'll say, was closed down. And then there was this lull of like, what do I do? She's a mom of 2 little teeny humans and was really wanting to like show up in the world and contribute to the family financially outside of just mothering these 2 amazing humans. And she had like a couple ideas, but was really, really in the impostery, like, oh, I don't know, it's a small town. What are they going to think? And we had a couple of breath sessions, and she like went into this one session and was in the like, who am I to do this kind of energy. And to this day, I don't know the details of what happened in her journey, but she came out with like a business plan, essentially. Like, she was like, I see it. Mm-hmm. And she has since launched this new business, like did a proper launch in the middle of June. And within 10 days had like a bunch of sales. It's like totally going and rocking and rolling, and she is on top of the moon. And it, like, talk about reclaiming her power. She is on cloud 9, and it's so fun to watch her. And it came through like clearing all of that imposter fear, clearing all of the what ifs, and actually just not only feeling the fears of the impostery stuff, but also feeling the power of the desire. Mm-hmm. Like to be reconnected with the power of our desire and why we're doing this business in the first place. Yeah. And when we're in that thinking space for too long, it's really easy to forget that. And we might be able to verbalize it. Oh yeah, I want to help women, whatever, make $1 million. Okay. Feel that. Like, what is it? Feel that, and then say it again. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between just saying something and feeling it. And our clients can sense that if we're just surface level talking and we're not embodying what we're teaching, they can tell. Yeah. And we can't embody what we teach if we don't have a relationship with our body. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Such a fun story.
It is so fun. And her business is so fun. It's just so fun. Yeah.
Well, it's so fun because it shows that we've talked about this, and one of the things that I talk about often is, what does it mean to be a soulful CEO? And sometimes we think about CEO and it's like, to start a business has to be serious. I have to sit in a boardroom and I have to create this business plan that's 36 pages and I've got to like do all these things, right?
Yeah.
But there's other access points to that outcome. And the truth is, for most people, we already know. It's just all the stuff that's getting in the way. And then what we don't know also becomes clear. So through a process like that is like, I know exactly what I need to do, but I have no idea how to do this piece. So I need to like learn that or get support there or whatever. But we get to see what we know and we don't know and clear all the limitation around that, which is super cool. So like celebrating your client, yay.
Yeah. It's a super yay. You just said something about, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how. And, everyone's like, the how is out of your control. The how is none of your business. And that is fine. And that also, at least I'm a control. I really like to control the outcome of things. And so that's hard sometimes to hear. And I also know it's true. And for anyone, but specifically women, for us to really be able to like lean back and trust spirit or universe or whatever we believe is actually going to bring us this thing, and we don't need to know how, but we just trust that it will. Part of practicing trusting comes in breathwork. It's like learning to trust that your body knows how to do this, trusting that whatever's coming up is right. There's a big relationship to breathwork and you're releasing your control and learning how to trust. And I do teach about it when I'm doing the bigger journeys, where the releasing of the control and trusting comes in. So if anyone listening is like myself and likes to control and know all the outcomes, I would invite you to come and explore a little bit of breath, just to play with that and just to give yourself information about yourself. So you can like highlight, oh, wow, okay, I do that. Interesting. Woo. All right.
Totally. And in a really safe way. That's what I love about breathwork, is like you are in control. You can turn up the dial or down the dial, but it's not like you've like drank some tea and now you're like on this like roller coaster. You get to control it. So for as you said, people who are playing with that relationship of control, it's a really nice, powerful practice, but something that doesn't completely you don't have to completely abdicate control.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'd love, I know, so I'm in your membership and you have the most amazing library of breathwork practices, and they're great because they're anywhere from like 3 minutes to 20 minutes, and you have such an array of different types of breath that you can play with. If you were to share with us one practice that people who might just be like interested in incorporating this into their day-to-day, is there a specific practice you would recommend to get started with?
The one that just popped into my mind as you were speaking, and I think it's in the membership listed under like maybe breath for overwhelm or anxiousness, or maybe both. And that's coming to my mind because I know for me, like overwhelm comes in, semi-often as you're running your own business, you've got a lot of things to do. And I imagine some of your listeners have families, and that's also a lot of things to do. And so the breath that I like to support people with for overwhelm is really, really easy. You can literally do it while you're driving. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to lay down. And I start with 8 as the number, but everyone gets to really play with that. But the inhale is done through the nose, and it's done like a sniff, like little sniffs. And so I would invite 8 little sniffs in, and then 1 open mouth exhale, and just playing with that. 8 sniffs in, 1 exhale, 8 sniffs in, 1 exhale. If 8 feels really that's not possible for me.
Yeah.
Try 7, try 6, try 5. It doesn't matter. But the length of your inhale snipped into whatever number feels good.
Yeah.
And as you exhale, as you continue to do this practice, I would say probably 3 minutes is fine. Your exhale might even start to change. There might be maybe a sigh, maybe then there's some sound. It might actually just become its own expression, which again, ask is that you let that be totally okay, even if it feels funny and weird. And that with the inhale, with the sniffing inhale, you can even add, like with every sniff, you can even hike the shoulders up. So you're almost like amplifying the sense of overwhelm. And then with the exhale, letting them drop down. So you're really allowing yourself to feel opposite as well.
Okay.
So the little sniff shoulders can come up and then everything goes back down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a beautiful practice. That's a good one to do like middle of the day if you're running around or you've just got like appointment after appointment or task after task.
Yeah.
Honestly, 3 minutes. Maybe you have to go sit in the bathroom to get those 3 private minutes. But that's a really, really good go-to one.
Awesome. I love how accessible that is too. It's like, it's not, you don't have to lay down. It's not this 20-minute journey. You can put on like music and stuff for it. It's just in the moment, accessible. And whether than even before a sales call or something like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I do have one more question for you.
Yes, please.
And this is the question that I ask most people who come on the show is, what does being a soulful CEO mean to you?
Oh, being a soulful CEO to me means creating, running, and navigating your business from a heart-centered space, from a place that feels good and easy. I say easy with like quotations, there will be challenge, but it feels in alignment to your morals and your values. And that's, people can tell. And so your business, I believe if you're running it from a soulful space, your business will have your exact dream clients or patients or students or whatever it is that they are. And yes, there will be challenge, but I don't believe it should feel hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like how you make that distinction of like, it's not necessarily going to be easy, but it's how if you're orienting it to it as difficult or hard, there's something that's like a bit off there.
There's a mismatch. Yeah. If we're moving from a place of heart-centeredness, from like your then even the, challenging days or, tasks that you need to do. Yeah. You'll just do it. It's not like I don't even know how to say that. There's like an underlying sense of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And thanks for all the wisdom and the gift of the breathwork practice and the insight into how powerful this work can be. And so if people want to learn more about this or about you, where
probably Instagram is the best. Instagram or my website. So Instagram is _essentials and my website is thesacredessentials.net. And they're both pretty updated with all of the things.
Perfect. I love that. We'll put all of that in the show notes so people can find you and your work. And as I said, I've had the chance of working with Kyla myself, and she is powerful when it comes to facilitating this kind of work. So I hope you check her out. And thanks to everyone who joined us for the conversation today and who listened in. And I hope I fulfilled on our promise to leave you with something that you can really walk away with. And as usual, if you found the show helpful, please hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra inspired today, you can leave a review. It really does help. So if you have any questions about what we've talked about, you can either send me or Kyla a DM on Instagram. We'll put the handles in the show notes. And thanks again for joining us. Until the next episode.